Hello, beautiful, amazing, fantastic world, and you, wonderful, wonderful individual. Today, I would like to speak about knowledge as revelation and, well, providence, and as we individual consider knowledge gifts, the more if we are paying attention and becoming conscious, of course, start to see that the world is slowly but surely giving us inspiration and knowledge and certain pieces of information that might all of a sudden fit into the picture you have been so carefully and so magnificently been crafting and carving on from your birth to now. Of course, for us to truly understand the spiritual and the inspiring and imagination and intuition, spiritual knowledge requires us to actually live. For despite not being as easy to describe the direct perception of the spiritual world, it is much easier when we do have something we can correlate it to and hence uses as symbols and such. Now, of course, by being open to and to allow oneself to wait until this revelation and these knowledge tidbits are coming in, and at the same time we strive towards deepening this inner I was about to say archive, but that does just sound dusty and half static. No, allowing and filling up one's own inner soul and spirit to allow one's own inner thinking, feeling, and will to become alive and mobile. Of course, imagination is, if we, it is like this. Imagination is, if we take the plant world, if we allow for the plant to become mobile within our own inner thinking, we can change the shape of the flower from one type to another based on metamorphosis, based on living thinking and imagination. Now, when we see something with a nervous system that has movement, mobility, we can no longer only use our passive imagination to cover all animals. We would have to be inspired from the outwards in addition to imagination, hence imagination and inspiration. That is where the astral body is becoming visible through movement, through longings, through passions, through, well, fantasies and inner fancy, and you name it. That is the astral world, and also what brings us to certain promptings, in a sense, in many cases. Now, of course, the astral and the etheric being the plant world, the life formative world. The astral is a flower with a nervous system, so it becomes an animal. Of course, the only reason as to why these are visible is the effect of the mineral, kind of like a thin sheath of mineral molecules or granules, making us plants and animals visible. Everything else, our etheric, our astral, and our I, is invisible, are in the spiritual world, but their effects are indisputable because you see its activities, in a sense. Now, inspiration comes from when we need to have the sense perceived object slash being to inform us partially about their nature. The plants show them their whole nature to us through imagination. Hence, the plant world is kind of like a plethora of imaginative forms. Now, the animal, we have to be inspired by their movements, by their behaviors, by their inner core in a sense, and their form. Now, when it comes to intuition, it's the one we are the least aware of. And that is what comes directly out of the human being's I or ego. That is where our intuition comes in. You see a person's gait, you see a person's posture, you see how a person speaks, and you can easily get a whole lot of a human being. And that is where intuition comes in. It is an even deeper layer again of, well, it is our will. So for us to be able to perceive will now without actively using our clairvoyant capabilities, we can slowly but surely train us into and become awake to. We can see the will impulses after the effect, in a sense. So when someone has done something, you just saw their will impulse, despite it being conscious or subconscious. Now, of course, I was just musing because I got inspired, and when something tells me to film a video on a Sunday at with sun, and it's later in the day, I take that invitation. I just see what happens and see what comes, because that is half the joy of doing this. It's a lot of inspired knowledge. One starts with a stream, one starts with a topic, and then you build around this whole picture, this imaging, and it is up to us as individuals to be capable of even conveying information and knowledge. Now that is where we are practicing and training ourselves to become even more eloquent, and also through this eloquence being able to conjure up pictures and imaginations that becomes alive within others and ourselves. Being directly, dynamically creative and imaginative with the world, so the world inspire us, and we start to begin to, instead of seeing a plethora of forms just by categorically standing aside with one another, you start to see a whole spiritual, soulful world of life. It's so much more than what we give this world credit for, as we are capable of now. It was a purpose with all of this. We have come so far down into the material that the sense perceptible, reason, our intellechy alone is what we have been using for the last 500 to 800 years as where we have slowly gotten from the old to the new type of perception. Now, we are now meant to, with the consciousness, with the meticulousness, with the scientific capabilities of our consciousness and our inner being, again coming into the spiritual world. So instead of naively walking around being guided by the gods we knew were there always in the past, we are now meant to come and meet them again. But with the clearness that we have today, the capabilities of clearness we have today. So the more enthusiastic and initiative you are to wishing to learn truth about the underlying world, the world will come and meet you more and more and more. But it takes time for any kind of progress. And sometimes we have to contend with having almost no visible progress, despite it always being progress there. Sometimes you have leaps, sometimes it just takes a little bit of time, because you need to accumulate a certain amount of knowledge so that you have the whole picture again. And you do it again and again and again, and that is how we expand our inner understanding of this world. From inwards, outwards, outwards, inwards. But we are the experiencer of all of this. So we are to be included in such musings and reflections. So having this inner heart of knowledge is grace. Knowledge is, well, it's love, truly. Because when you strive to learn about this world, about the spiritual, about the higher worlds, you are in that state of activity, in a state of gratitude, because you wish to know more about the thing you love. Of course, unless you wish to find more about the thing you hate. That can also, that we all do that now and then, right? It is but a fleeting moment though, and it never truly satisfies anyone in the end. What truly satisfies over longer periods of time, contentment, is the activity of striving for knowledge, for insight, for knowing. And that is what I will leave you with today. May you be protected, guided, blessed, and loved by Father, Holy Spirit, Christ, my God, ancient masters of old, ancestors from every incarnation, and the higher hierarchy. And may you, of course, be watched over by the Holy Spirit, which is symbolized in with sun, just like Christmas is with the Christ, with the birth of Christ, and Easter is death of Christ. So is with sun the resurrection of the Christ, the living Christ within us, within me, within you. The love, the compassion, the longing for understanding and deepness and gentleness is the Christ in us. The capabilities we are not yet capable of is actively emanating from within our own inner being until we are capable of doing it. For we are, well, standing in the presence of the Christ. It's the best example to use here. Example. It's the best sentence to use here. So, thank you so much for listening to me. May you have a beautiful Whitsun feather. And love you so much. May you be safe and sound. Love you. Goodbye.